Hello and welcome to our International Student Town Hall webinar. My name is Jillian McVeigh and I am a program coordinator in the Office of New Student Programs here at Bentley. And I'm joined today by some of my colleagues from the Center for International Students and Scholars, the Residential Center, as well as Health Services. I wanted to first thank everyone for taking some time out of your day today to join us. We'll be covering a variety of topics and resources and information for our new international students and their families. Throughout the presentation today, you're welcome to submit any questions that you have using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We'll cover approximately 15 to 20 minutes of content, and then we'll have some time at the end to answer those questions. It's our goal to get as many of your questions answered as possible, but also wanted to note that planning and preparation for the fall are still in progress. If there's any questions that we are unable to answer, we will work to gather those resources for you. We also encourage you to review the Back to Bentley website for updates and information throughout the summer. We'll also be recording today's session for you to view at a later date and time. So if there's anything you want to refer back to, you can definitely do that. The recording will be available on our YouTube channel, which you can access through our website, bentley.edu/orientation, or you could search Bentley Orientation right on YouTube. And then for those who may be watching the pre-recorded live chat, please feel free to direct any of your questions that may come up to the email addresses that will be listed at the end of this chat. So thank you again. We're going to get started with some introductions. I actually have a member of the New Student Programs team here with us today. She's one of our student coordinators, so I will go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Thanks, Jill. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Mill. I'm one of the student coordinators, as Jill mentioned, with the orientation program here at Bentley. I'm a rising junior, and I'm currently studying management and international economics here at Bentley. And I'm really looking forward to meeting you all this fall at orientation.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. So if you have any questions regarding the student experience, Katie will be happy to answer those for you at the end of the presentation. And we also have some folks from the Residential Center, so I will turn it over to them and let them introduce themselves.
Alex, you go first.
Thank you, Kat. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Matos. I am a residence director in the Residential Center, and I oversee upperclassmen in our apartments area.
Hi, everybody. My name is Catherine Keys. I go by Kat. I'm the Director of Housing and Residential Services here at Bentley, and I'm excited to chat with you this morning, and congratulations on your acceptance.
Awesome, thanks. And then I'll turn it over to Julia, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Julia Matthews. I'm the director at the Bentley Health Center. We're really excited to have you coming to Bentley. We know that there's always questions around requirements to enter schools, so we're always happy to answer those. You can always reach out to us, and then when you're on campus, you can consider us your primary care away from home. So we'll be really looking forward to having you on campus and meeting you.
Awesome. And then I will turn it over to the folks from CISS to go ahead and get started on our content for today.
Thanks, Jill. Brittany, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Mackey. I am an international student advisor in CISS, which is the short form of Center for International Students and Scholars. If you are, all of you incoming students have likely received emails with my signature regarding next steps so that we can get you the I-20 and the visa process started. Looking forward to welcoming you to Bentley, and Nia, go ahead.
Thanks, Brittany. Hi, everyone. I'm Nia DeYoung. I'm director of the Center for International Students and Scholars. And in the words of everyone, just want to echo welcome to Bentley and looking forward to seeing you in person in a few months. We are going to share with you some information about the Center for International Students and Scholars, a brief overview, some details about the fall 2021 semester, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So whether you have questions about CISS or residential life or the health center or orientation, feel free to ask those questions, and you can start even putting them in the Q&A now. So the Center for International Students and Scholars, we also call ourselves the CISS for short. That's our abbreviation. So you may hear us refer to the office that way. We are a team of international student advisors, and we offer immigration assistance before and after your arrival and even after your graduation from Bentley. So we provide advising for students once they're accepted and they've decided to come to Bentley. We'll start working with you then. As Brittany mentioned, you may have heard from Brittany, you may have heard from Laura Graham on our team as well about your new I-20 and how you can get it and what documents you need to submit in order to move forward in that process. And we work with all students once they're here to make sure that they maintain their F1 immigration status and after they graduate. So a lot of students will decide to work in the US for a year or up to 3 years after they graduate, and that is a benefit that you can use on your F1 visa. So we continue to work with students as long as you're on the F1, even if you're working as an alum. In the past year, we had about 826 international students on campus, and that was representing 75 countries. And it's about 14% of our undergrad population. It's usually a little bit higher, but we did have a pandemic, so the numbers were a little bit lower. But we normally have over 1,000 international students on campus, and we're looking forward to getting back there in the fall. Our team is made up of 4 staff members, and we also have a number of student employees who work at our front desk and grad interns as well. So that's me, I'm Nia, the director. Anna Garson is our assistant director. Brittany, who you also met, is our international student advisor, and Terry Lamoureux is our administrative coordinator. You probably will hear from each and every one of us. If you've been emailing the CISS email account, then you've probably heard from almost all of us at this point, but we will be checking emails and making sure that we get back to you about any questions or inquiries you have for the fall. So what we actually do, and Brittany, feel free to chime in if anything's not on here, but how we can help is with your arrival and immigration registration. So once you actually get to Bentley, we'll make sure that we check each and every international student in and make sure that we update your CVIS record. So your CVIS record is attached to your I-20 document. It's that number that starts with an N. And we want to make sure that that is registered and active so that you start off already maintaining status once you get here. We advise on immigration. So anything related to your immigration status, that could be travel, that could be bringing a dependent, like if you have a spouse or a child, that could be what are you able to do or not able to do based on your immigration status. We'll advise on those types of questions. We also will provide workshops that have to do with your employment options. So whether that is working on CPT, which is curricular practical training, and that's related to internships. So while you're a student, you do have the ability to do internships in the US, and also OPT, that is optional practical training, and that's for students who would like to work after they graduate. So those are some different employment options, but we do want to make sure that you understand how those work. We have lots of workshops throughout the semester and lots of information on our website about both of those. For if there are any J1 exchange students on this call, there is also something called academic training, and that's specifically for students on the J1 visa who may be exchange students. That is something that's optional for you as well, and you can reach out to our office and we'll tell you more about that. Our office can also help with travel guidance. So whether that is, can I travel? Do I have updated documents? Do I need additional information? What are some places that I might want to go or not want to go? We can give you the latest travel guidance based on your status and also just based on the world as it is right now. A lot of things are constantly changing, so we often have been sharing information from the State Department with students, and that's one of our government agencies. Cultural adjustment is also something that we'd like to share with you about, and we'll talk a little bit more about that during orientation. But we have different programs that our office runs that will facilitate with cultural adjustment, whether it's Conversations Beyond Borders or the Worldview program, or just being able to come in and talk to one of the staff members about an immigration issue or other concerns that you might be having related to adjustment in the US. We understand it's a different, you may have been to the US before, but you may not have lived as a student at Bentley. So there's a different adjustment experience to just learning how to navigate the campus and the university. We also do a lot of referring students to resources on campus. So whether that is making sure that you're connected to the right people in the residential life or the health center or the counseling center, or meeting people, connecting to the right faculty members or the right academic advisors, we can help you to navigate that as well. Brittany, anything you want to chime in here?
I just want to highlight, we had on campus underneath employment options. And just to let folks know that by virtue of having an F1 visa, you are allowed to work on campus up to 20 hours. We can talk more about it. As Nia said, please feel free to email us or attend our Zoom advising hours, but do know there's not extra application materials required or authorization for that.
Thanks, Brittany, good point. Some specific details about fall 2021 are that hopefully everyone on this call has been able to get an F1 visa with no issues at all. If you are having any concerns, please let us know so we can keep track of those, and also we can provide any potential assistance. But consulates and embassies are operating with a national interest exception, which allows students from all over the world to have a bit of an easier time getting an F1 visa at a US consulate or embassy abroad. So hopefully that has been helpful for you. If you're having any difficulties, again, please reach out to us. Our email will be at the end of the presentation. There are still travel restrictions in place, so it's important that you check for updates. It's also very important that you arrive on campus by September 7th. So some of the travel restrictions are for specific countries. So if you're encountering those, you can feel free to put that in the Q&A, or we can reach out if you have specific questions about any issues that you've seen. Vaccinations are required by August 1st, 2021. And good news is we also have an updated frequently asked questions section of our website. So we'll make sure to put that link in. So maybe Jill can put that link in the and make it available to students. It's not on this PowerPoint slide, but that would be helpful to share with students as well, that we have some updated FAQs available. So a lot of the questions that students have been asking about vaccinations had to do with being vaccinated on time by August 1st, or being fully vaccinated by August 1st. Some students not having access to the FDA or WHO approved vaccines. So we do have a lot of answers to those questions. So please share if you have those, and we can go over them in more detail. Also, the current I-20, if you are an F1 student, you will be issued an I-20 document. If you're on the J1 visa, you'll be issued a DS-2019 document, and both will come to you electronically. Unless a few people might have gotten the DS-2019 in a hard copy, but the electronic copy is fine. You can just print it and sign your name. And we also have a fall 2021 supplement letter that seems like it's less needed these days, but in case you do need a supplement letter, if that's requested by the consulate or embassy, let us know. We can get that to you if you don't already have it.
I do just want to add, Nia, I see in the question somebody has asked about arriving by September 2nd. Yes, please do arrive for orientation. Oh, sorry, my video froze. I'll refresh that. Okay, yes, please do arrive for orientation. We have September 7th as the final date in case you encounter any, delays in arriving. So yes, please arrive for orientation. You have that information, but September 7th would be the latest date. If there are issues with that, as Nia said, please reach out to us.
Thanks for clarifying that. Yes, we do want you to get here for orientation. Absolutely, before the 7th. We understand that some students may have additional travel issues or visa concerns, but the latest date that you can get here is September 7th, which is also when classes start. So hopefully you'll be able to get here much sooner than that and attend orientation and meet lots of new students who are coming in early September. So some temporary regulatory changes in the past year. Per school policy, undergraduate students must take classes on campus and must, again, be in the US by a deadline of September 7th in order to begin in F1 status. And that is just for the current year. There were some exceptions made in the past year for COVID for students to study remotely, but now it is required that you're studying on campus and maintaining that in-person presence on campus. So students entering the US to begin F1 status must be in a full load of courses. For undergraduate students, that means you're enrolled in 12 credits, at least 12 credits. I know that many students enroll in more than that. CVIS transfer students, so if you've transferred your CVIS record from one school to Bentley, or if you recently completed an undergraduate degree at Bentley and now you're starting a graduate degree, those students are able to study remotely in the US or fully online, but that same exception is not for students who are starting as undergraduate students, and this is your first year of studying at Bentley. So unless you're a transfer student, you should be on campus studying in person and enrolled in in-person courses. And some fall 2021 options explained. So a full load of classes inside the US will allow you to maintain F1 status. Your courses can be hybrid, synchronous or asynchronous, and taking classes outside of the US would be equivalent to no F1 status. So for any students who are not able to arrive in the US by that September 7th deadline, I understand there's still a lot of travel issues that are happening, but your F1 status just wouldn't begin until you actually are physically in the US. And if that is your situation, again, please reach out to us so that we know who you are and we can work with you individually to make sure that you have access to everything else that you need. So some questions that we have seen coming in pretty frequently are about late arrival due to travel restrictions and visa appointments or getting vaccinated. Again, just want to reiterate that final deadline is September 7th, but orientation starts the week before that, so make sure that you're here for orientation. Hybrid courses, students who are in their first semester in F1 or J1 status must take at least one hybrid or in-person course, and that counts as your in-person requirement. So if you're taking all of your classes, which you should be taking all of your classes on campus, you'll probably have multiple, either hybrid or all of your classes will be in person. Health insurance, if you're outside the US, you would have to complete a residency form to confirm your location, and the insurance can be waived if you're not in the US. Again, our undergrads do need to be in the US, so unless you are a CVIS transfer student, you should be on campus in the next couple of months. And questions. So I see that some people have been submitting questions to the Q&A button already. You can keep doing that, and we will be here to get your questions, and I'll just invite folks from ResLife and from the Health Center to chime in if there's anything that was pertinent that I'd like to touch on in this presentation, and I'll share the screen with our email addresses as well.
I see a couple of vaccine questions. Should I type in or answer directly? What's easier?
If I answer live, actually, that'd be helpful, Julia.
Sure. Okay, so I see someone asked, I will not be able to get vaccinated in my country by August 1st. What should I do? So this is a big question for a lot of students. So that's okay if you do not have access to a vaccine in your country. There's nothing you can do about that. If you do have access to any COVID vaccine in your, I assume you're talking about COVID vaccine, so I shouldn't just make that assumption, but I'm going to go with COVID vaccine and then can expand to others if needed. But essentially, if you have access to any COVID vaccine, whether it's FDA, WHO approved or not, I would suggest getting that. And then when you get to campus, you need to start the process of getting vaccinated with an FDA or WHO approved vaccine. We will be hosting clinics on campus. We also have a close partnership with a very local close pharmacy. So reach out to us, let us know your situation. We can help you with that, but know that we understand that international students have challenges with access to the COVID vaccine. I think there was another one. My son will get vaccinated when he gets there on August 22nd. Is it possible? Yes. If that is Again, if you do not have access to a COVID vaccine in your country, get here, get that process started. Here in the US, it's really almost a walk-in basis now. It's always nice to be able to call ahead, make sure the pharmacy has your vaccine available, but really at this time, we can walk in. We have a local pharmacy called Osco, so shoot us an email. We can give you those specifics. As Nia said, there's a number of FAQs on our vaccination page that gives some more information about that. In general, any vaccine that you aren't able to obtain at home, we have a local pharmacy that we'll be hosting a clinic with on campus to get that done. Does that answer everything? Anybody? Okay, I'll leave it at that, but please feel free to reach out to the health center and we can respond to those questions. Do vaccines made by other countries satisfy Bentley's requirements? Right now, we have a list on our website of which ones are accepted. That list keeps changing, so it's good to keep checking the list on our portal, on the Medicat Health portal, and that should answer your question regarding which vaccines are accepted right now. I'll stop there.
Thanks, Julia. We have a couple of questions about the health insurance waiver. I just want to reiterate that undergraduate students are required to be on campus. So if you do need the waiver, we should probably have a longer conversation about to make sure that you're not planning to be in the US. But I would encourage, I think there were 2 students who asked about the waiver, if you could send an email to CISS and maybe also to the health center. So if you do need the form, we can make sure that you get the right form. Yeah. We have a residential life question. Oh, sorry, Jill.
Oh yeah, there looks like there's some questions for ResLife. The first question is, when are the dorms open for move-in?
So those are some great questions. And last week was when our housing contract and housing application questions were due. And we tried to reach out to folks if they weren't able to fill that out. And if maybe you were one of those people, don't worry, we will help you to fill it out this week. So over the next month, kind of what we do is actually go through the various answers people have provided us. And for students who did not select a roommate, which is okay, about half of our population kind of goes in randomized. We work to assign people. And then our goal right now is to get the assignments out the last week in July. We have not provided a specific date yet because there's still some pieces we are working through in relation to arrival to campus due to COVID and the vaccine pieces. So September 2nd, that Thursday, is when orientation starts, and we will officially welcome students to campus and for move-in. Of course, if you are arriving early, or maybe if your country only has specific flights, we are happy to work with you to identify a new date. And our general email account is up on the screen. So that's gahousing@bentley.edu. You can email us and we'll work with you if you need to arrive early. But again, that target date is Thursday, September 2nd for arrival. And the last week of July is when you will find out specifically your housing assignment, your roommate, and more specifics on how students will need to arrive, and if there's any other information regarding screening once they arrive to campus.
Awesome. Looks like you touched on a couple of those questions that we had in there too. And then there's just kind of going off of that one saying, if I arrive in Boston by myself because my parents can't fly with me due to travel restrictions, is there any specific support they can rely on?
So students would have to arrive to Bentley, so we can recommend taxis, Ubers, things of that sort, but we would gladly help you in terms of directions, how to arrive. And then when you do get to campus, depending on the time frame, we do have staff on 24/7. So, as long as it's within a reasonable hour, we have people called the administrator on duty, and Alex, who's on this, happens to be one of those folks. So they are our hall staff or master's level professionals. So it would help greet you, welcome you, and if not, one of our resident assistants, which are student staff who live in the hall. We know when you arrive to campus, and if you're traveling by yourself, it can be kind of overwhelming and figuring out where to go, and we would support you through that, in addition to the orientation leaders that will be here as well. So there will be folks to greet you, welcome you, and assist you with anything you need once you get to Bentley's campus.
Awesome, thanks, Kat. This question is referring to Workday or the other online portals, asking them to state where they'll be living in the US, but they have not found a residence yet. I don't know if anyone can advise on that.
For the immigration side, it's okay if you don't have an address yet. We know that some students get their address after they are actually in the US and decide or determine where they are going to live. So it's okay for the immigration side, but for Workday, it might not let you move forward if you don't have a local address. I would reach out to us if you can send us an email. If you're having if you're getting an error code in Workday for not inputting a local address, just let us know because you should be able to leave it blank for right now, unless you're doing the onboarding process.
This question is wondering about a list of places to stay close to Bentley for on or September 2nd. So I'm thinking hotels, things like that.
If you're arriving before September 2nd, we do have a list of hotels. But if you're a student arriving on September 2nd, then you should be able to move on to campus. Kat, looked like you unmuted.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of echo what Nia said. So we do partner with some local hotels that are close by that are at a more affordable rate from the partnership. So that's listed on our website and under some of the frequently asked questions. Of course, you could reach out to our office or CISS and we can provide you those hotels. But again, if it's within a couple days before the 2nd and you need to get in early, we're happy to help you with that. But we know sometimes students like to come, more than a week early to kind of get acclimated. Maybe you come with your family, or maybe you just come by yourself because you want to explore Boston or the area. So we can provide you some local hotel recommendations.
There was a question that you typed an answer, but it might be nice if you speak it. A person asked about what do students do after the first year when they have to move out of the residence hall? Where do they store their belongings?
Yeah, so we definitely have questions about items in terms of storage. So a lot of students will actually work with a local storage facility. So there's one less than a mile from campus. We also have one called CubeSmart and some others in the area. So some students will actually get it for themselves, or what we have found is some students will partner up and, maybe I say to Nia, hey, do you want to go in on the storage unit with me for the summer? So you do have to vacate all of your personal items before you leave for the semester. And then you can store them at that location. Some students even will pay an added service and have people pick up their items, put them in storage, and then deliver them back. So there's various companies you can work with, and it works really well for our students depending on what your needs are.
We just had a question come in asking about off-campus housing. Are there any deadlines to when you would have to apply the latest for that?
So we work with a company called Offcampus Partners, and we can provide any student the link to that website. So they kind of have various off-campus rentals that you can look for in the area. So it could be Waltham, it could be Belmont, which is another city close to Waltham, or actually in Boston or Cambridge. So the university doesn't have a specific off-campus housing office. So if you were committed to on-campus housing, you would have to fill out what we call a housing contract release request. And that's through the housing portal. So essentially you told admissions that you were going to live on campus. So we have provided your head in our count in terms of students who want to live in the residence hall. So if you're looking to live off campus, but you did commit to living on campus, that is the only information you would need to provide us with. And again, that is the housing contract release form. Otherwise, if you're searching off campus, absolutely, there's no deadline for that piece in terms of if you did not commit to living on campus for the fall semester.
We just got another question looking at the spring semester. So when do students have to be back on campus in January?
So that's a good question because we're actually looking at the calendar right now. Because of our accreditation process, we might be coming back a little bit later in January. So I need to look back at my notes to see what that date would be, unless Nia or anyone has that currently. But I think we're actually going to be pushing back 1 week in January. So I will get right back to you on that.
Yeah, it's still being finalized.
Quick question about, is it too late to apply for on-campus housing? You know, the deadline was due, but is there a chance to still apply for that?
We'd love to have you reach out to us and we're happy to get you in. So housing@bentley.edu is our email account, and we have some more space if students are interested. So absolutely.
And then this is a question that I can answer. So after check-in, do students leave campus between the 3rd and the 6th? So that'll be during your orientation period. So we'll have lots of stuff planned for you during those days, busy days where you'll be interacting with different campus partners, your orientation leaders, other students, and doing a lot of getting ready for your first day of classes. So you'll be on campus and getting a chance to really experience and learn the Bentley traditions and all the exciting things that are going to come your way. Can freshmen drive on campus?
So another good question. You all are tricky this morning, and I like it. So historically, first-year students have not been allowed to have cars on campus. And part of that reason is we want students to stay on campus. Sometimes it's easy to get away for the weekend, and we want students to kind of have those first 2 weeks to be engaged with the activities on campus, programming other students. However, last year with COVID, we did allow first-year students to have cars on campus, I think because of the various restrictions and in the event students had to depart. So you can always apply for an on-campus parking pass if you want, and that's through University Police. So they oversee parking decals and parking on campus. So you would have to reach out to the University Police office. The card access office gives the parking passes.
So this question is for parents leaving their children on campus when they move in. When is it recommendable to stay? I would say that during our first day, during move-in day on September 2nd, we have our convocation, which parents are invited to. And then we will be kind of leaving the students with their orientation leaders and starting that orientation process that is specifically for students. We're looking to have some additional virtual engagement for parents in the following weeks. But during that convocation on September 2nd, after that, I think that'll be recommendable. Unless Kat, you have anything to add in there? Perfect. All right, I don't see any other questions coming in, but we'll give it a few more minutes. If anyone has any other questions pop up. So on the calendar, it says September 6th that the university is closed because it's a holiday. Am I allowed to stay on campus?
Yes, you are, and we would love to have you. And I'm sure there's going to be many activities that our colleagues in student programs and engagement will put on for that weekend, including what historically has been a welcome back concert that's really fun. So lots going on campus.
This is a question about quarantining. Do we have to be in isolation for 14 days when arriving to the US?
That is a good question. Right now, we're following CDC guidelines, and anyone coming for travel is asked to quarantine for 7 days. So that will be our policy. We are keeping, as I said, all of our website information up to date because those policies are rapidly changing. So do keep tabs on where you're coming from and what the US guidelines are. There's, for everyone traveling, typically, Nia, you can correct me, but I think they're typically asking for a PCR test either before or after arrival, quarantining when you're getting here. In terms of our testing protocol, when you come to campus, we'll likely be having everyone do at least one PCR test for COVID. And then from there, if you're fully vaccinated, we will not necessarily be doing that testing. So all of those guidelines we're closely tracking, and we'll continue to update our website as we go forward.
I'll just add and echo what Julia said. Yes, I think if you're entering from outside the US, your airline should be providing you information ahead of time. So please be sure that you're checking your email about specific testing you may have done. I've seen both PCR and antigen testing accepted, but I will say that does depend on the state that you enter in. So if you are flying directly to Boston, if that is the first entry point to the US, then you should you can contact CISS, of course, but you can look up Massachusetts state policies. The US is a little bit particular. We have federal regulations, state regulations, and then you'll learn some of the Bentley policies we have as well. But if you happen to fly through another state before you enter Massachusetts, be sure to look at those states' particular policies they may have around arriving and testing for COVID before arrival.
This is a question about, can we quarantine on campus?
So that's a good question. So at this point, we do have designated residence hall facilities that will be used for quarantine and isolation this upcoming year. We hope not to need it. But with that, as Julia mentioned, we're following the CDC guidelines, and right now things are changing pretty rapidly. So, you know, it's the end of June, and I think things will likely look much different come September. So if students need to quarantine on campus due to what the guidelines are, we will be sure to help students with that. So whether it's on campus or maybe locally, depending on the number of students that need to quarantine, we will provide you specific information and be sure to assist you in that process in terms of where you would stay. But things may change if students are coming vaccinated, if we screen you on campus. So yes, we will help you. Yes, it likely could be on campus as well.
So we just had a question just to clarify that quarantine piece. Our students are allowed to arrive early before the second to quarantine.
We have a meeting, I actually think later today, to talk about this exact question to provide you all more information. So the likelihood is, yes, we're going to allow international students to come earlier because of this quarantine mandate. And that way, when the second rolls around and orientation starts, people can be fully engaged and interacting with their peers and each other in a safe way, of course, following the CDC guidelines. So we'll provide you more information on that in the near future.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in right now, but just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone for joining us today. All of my colleagues from CISS, Health Services, and the Residential Center, and all the families and students who joined us this morning on our call. It was a pleasure to have the opportunity to connect with some of you, and we're looking forward to connecting with you more throughout the summer and seeing you all in person in the fall. As a reminder, this was recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. You can also refer back to the Back to Bentley website. So it's bentley.edu/back-to-bentley. And then there's also lots of Q&As on there to help answer any other questions that might pop up for you. So if you have no more questions, we will let you get back to the rest of your day. So thank you so much for joining us.